What up? What up? What up? I'm normally I'm not streaming on Sundays, but I just wrapped up the My Hero Academia season 4 uh, uh, a few days ago. So I thought, okay, I'll just handle it right away so I can just get to jump on binge watching season 5. Before I continue, please do me a huge favor and like this video, leave a comment below, and share this with your friends. You can follow me in the links in the description below, such as my YouTube channel, my Twitch, Twitter. I think I'm going to get rid of the link to my TikTok because TikTok is officially banned in the US now, which, excuse me, all intents and purposes, don't really all that care that much because I don't, be on it like every day like a 16-year-old girl. Uh, but anyway, uh, yeah, uh, this season had only probably like 2 good arcs in general. Everything else is probably like the most lackluster fillers I ever seen from My Hero. But we pick up with the League of Villains meeting up with the what's left of the Yakuza. I mean, probably the last gang, that's left in Japan. Uh oh, and I want to bring up. I'm sorry, because in the last season, my the review of the last season, I keep mentioning uh Lemillion as non-million, and I apologize for that. Like I said, it's like I'm not good with names, so I'm pretty sure you understand who I was referencing. But like I, said the wrong word. The superhero the new superhero that we end up coming to know in the uh well, definitely in this season, but starting at the end of the last season, is Ludnillion. Uh, and then Sun Eater, and his other friend, this girl who I forgot her name, but they're known as the Big Three, who were in their second to last year, somewhere around there. So they're pretty much upperclassmen, to say the least. So, and they're pretty much fun. They're pretty fun. So anyway, we meet this gang leader known as Overhaul, who has his own quirk, which is pretty much disassemble and reassemble. And it's just kind of just by the touch of his hand, he can just obliterate a person or anything on contact. And he kind of got, like, I guess, OCD, which is kind of like a good gimmick of a character. It's like somebody with that level of power is kind of don't like dirty things or like touching dirty things, and he like things a little bit neat. And he even wears those kind of masks, as bird-like face mask, which and his it's kind of like his gang signature thing. Uh, uh, but those masks kind of like reminiscent to those plague masks from ages ago. So nice little. They the characters, I mean, like the creators of this character did some fine work building this character to make everything kind of blend together so seamlessly to make this character function. Like, he doesn't like dirty things. He wears like a plague mask so he can like not inhale unnecessary crap. uh but anyway, he meets up, well, twice, who we get to learn a little bit more of this season, who has the ability to duplicate himself and other people. But when he learned his quirk for the first time, he thought he can use it to make, like instant servants or what have you. But over time, they become a little bit more independent, and that's when he, starts losing himself. Doesn't know. They stop because they die, but they turn to kind of goop, and he kind of got like injured by one of them, so he got this kind of scar on his forehead. So he doesn't know if he's really like the original guy. So he kind of has like a bit of a multiple personality disorder. But he kind of keeps that contained relatively by way of his mask. So he's kind of like the Deadpool of the League of Villains. And he's into Toga, but she got like a thing for Deku. But I'm thinking to myself, okay, if you're the real person, because, well, I say you can cut yourself, and if it's goopy, then you're not the original. But if it's legit red and stuff like that, so it's like, oh, then you're the original. But I guess he doesn't want to test that theory. But he is an interesting character. But he sees Overhaul and his gang, and he thought, oh, well, I can recruit these guys. So they meet up in a secret, like, in this warehouse, and crap. Shigaraki, says like, oh, you can join us. And Overhaul is like, okay, you lost your leader, and he got captured, and I'm building something important. I don't need you, but you can join me. And it's kind of like a pissing contest pretty much between these two, because for right now, Shigaraki doesn't have, well, neither party has much leg to stand on, because what we learned here, what happened to, it's kind of like, Batman Year One kind of situation, or Long Halloween, I should say, where when quirks start becoming a major thing, where heroes and villains started sprouting, and this is before the whole UA and all this other regulations and licensing had to be put in place to keep like some level of order despite the quirks. The old guard of bad guys like the Yakuza has become have a less of a stranglehold, because why would any person join a gang of ordinary people where they have the power to do whatever they want for the most part? And every quirk is all spectacular, but these old guard of criminals loses their luster when villains kind of pave the way in a sense, and heroes on top of that. So Overhaul is an adopted son of the of this gang. I forgot what his gang is called, but he looked up to this guy, but he wanted to make his own type of moves, or at least, bring the respect back to the Yakuza to kind of stop, people with special powers. So he invented this drug that neutralizes abilities. But he doesn't have the forces necessary to really combat the superheroes. But, or at least not, I wouldn't say the necessary forces, but the respect. Because what Shigaraki has that Overhaul doesn't is, after the whole Stain situation, they have like, I say they have like the muscle, I should say, because people, more villains will go to Shigaraki over Overhaul, but Overhaul has the means to actually do some significant damage, because he not only has the drug that can neutralize the quirks, but he also has the antidote to bring them back. So he'll be the main supplier for both heroes and villains, making him very rich. But at first it's kind of like a pissing contest. But then when one of them tries to attack this person with the magnetic abilities, who I guess is trans, but he's drawn, or she is drawn like a man, and you see like a bit of like a flashback of this person with another person who it looks like a man dressed as like a woman kind of thing, but Overhaul destroys that person immediately. So the magnetic person, is killed. Compressed tries to do something, but loses an arm in the process. But I guess it's kind of like a stalemate between Shigaraki's powers and Overhaul's powers, so they kind of like back the heck up from each other. So Overhaul gives him his card. It's like, okay, things getting kind of heated. Why don't we reconvene another time once we both calm down? So while that is carrying on, back at UA, another work studies things coming up, but now they're most of the students have provisional licenses. They need to find an agency to work with. Deku hears from Gran Torino about All Might's former sidekick, pretty much his man in the chair, named Night Eye, who happens to also be the boss of Lemillion and the girl, like I said, like I forgot her name, who has, I guess, surge powers. And there's this like other assistant of Night Eye called Bubble Girl, who, from my recollection, I could be wrong, I think it was a character a fan created from some kind of contest, and a fan created like a character for the show, and they actually put the character in the show. I'm pretty sure that, Bubble Girl is that person. So Lemillion decides, okay, I can bring you in to meet up with Night Eye, because Night Eye and All Might had like a bit of a falling out years ago, days after his battle with All For One years ago that left him his injury in the first place. Night has the ability to, when he looks at a person, he can see what they'll, looking at them long enough, he can see their entire life, how it will go down. But he can only use his ability once per day. And so he saw that All Might, if he continues doing this whole hero thing, he will die a gruesome death. And of course, All Might pretty much didn't, he hears him, but he's the symbol of peace, and he has to maintain that. He has to give these people hope. We can't just quit. And at that time, we didn't have any kind of successor. Matter of fact, that's why he, built up this agency, and then found Lemillion, because he was pretty much like the golden boy. And luckily, most other anime will have him turn out to be kind of like a D-head. But no, he's a legit good person, and has like a, just like a bright, sunny personality. And he just has the ability to phase through things. But he can't, he has to hold his breath in the meantime. As he describes how his powers work, it's a lot to go in. It's a lot that moving parts in order for him to do what he does so effortlessly and with such efficiency is incredible, despite all the stuff he has to do in order to, just to take a step from a wall, one leg at a time. He has to think, hold his breath, think, about the actions that it takes one step at a time just to go through a wall with one foot, and then proceed on over and take the other foot out. I mean, they put a lot of thought into these quirks. It isn't just like, because what I love about My Hero Academia, when they build up these like quirks for these individuals, they also have to put into account, okay, what could be a drawback? Because nobody will be, even with All Might, nobody can't be OP. There has to be a drawback that comes into play. Like with Popoff, sure, he can make these little sticky balls from his head, but pull too many off, his scalp starts to bleed. Or with Izzy-Hot, he can't simultaneously use both of his powers. He has to alternate between one and the other. I thought that was like very creative. I always thought that was very creative. So, but with Lemillion, he was like he was going to be somebody that was going to be introduced to All Might at least within like 1 or 2 days. When All Might met Deku, he was supposed to had met up with Lemillion a day or two, after that incident with that slime monster. But because he bumped into Deku by way of fate, he saw something in Deku and decided, like, because he didn't know about Lemillion. He just heard like, oh, there's a boy I gotta meet, but I didn't get much detail. But here, but he ended up bumping into Deku first and saw something in Deku and decided, like, no, this is the kid. And of course, Deku feeling probably a little insecure about it, because, or at least not insecure, but maybe feel a little bit bad because the fact that, when he meets up with Lemillion and starts working with him and everything like that, it's like, this dude had it all. And it's like, now I feel like I cheated him. But, he gets, words from people like Lemillion. It's like, no, you're meant to be the one. It's perfectly fine. Like, don't feel bad or subconscious or anything like that. Because Deku, he's young, but he gets, I won't say whiny, but there's a lot of self-confidence issues with him. Thank God he doesn't cry as much as he did in the first 2 seasons, but he still got a bit of inferiority complex or something, man. But Lemillion says, sure, I can introduce you to Night Eye, but it's probably your best bet in order to get him to bring you onto the agency. He appreciates a good joke, so if you can make him laugh, that will seal the deal. But of course, Deku isn't much of a jokester like that. So he tries to do an impression of All Might, given the fact that Night Eye is like a super fan. Even by Deku's own words, like, wow, you even a bigger fan than even me. So he even had like the first editions of certain posters and all this other stuff sprayed around the his office. Of course, Night Eye is very, come across like a super serious dude, but he appreciates somebody who can give a good joke and appreciate comedy and everything like that, despite that serious facade he puts on. And he looks at Deku and it's like, why would I bring you on? Because it seems like he comes across like he has like a bit of a beef with Deku, because I guess since he kind of interrupted plans, or at least his goal to make sure All Might pass on his power to somebody he thought would be worthy, which would have been Lemillion. But Deku kind of, intercepted in a way. So he wanted to test Deku, and it's like, okay, it kind of reminds me of the bell test from Naruto, but he tells Deku, take this stamp out of my hand and stamp the form yourself. If you can do that, then I will bring you on board. So he says, like, don't worry about any damage in the room. Just try to get the stamp out of my hand. And with Night Eye's powers, because he doesn't, rarely he actually looks at a person's entire life with his powers, so you know exactly everything. He just, see just enough so he can be able to avoid everybody from certain attacks. And so Deku, trying to use the Gran Torino move to propel himself all over the place, tries to get that stamp, even going so far as like trying to toss things in his face to try to get to obscure his vision, so he can at least get that split chance to take that stamp. But he ends up failing. But according to Deku, he wasn't really going all out because he was busy avoiding all the All Might memorabilia in Night Eye's office, which Night Eye didn't even peep that, no pun intended. When he looks around, that he sees all these footprints all over the ceilings and the walls. They're all touched except all the All Might stuff. It's like he managed to pull those moves trying to get this stamp at the same time being conscientious enough not to hit none of the posters. And And the fact that he just dawned on him about the face that Deku made was specifically because at first Night Eye is saying like, oh, like he was trying to make fun of All Might, but he didn't realize himself that All Might, the face that Deku was making about All Might was not referencing his earliest years, but he was referencing that one moment where All Might saved this kid from drowning because he had a quirk that can change, I guess water or just liquid substance to anything he wants to. So because he couldn't swim, he fell into the lake and the water turned to vinegar and he was about to drown. All Might jumped in to save the kid, but because of the vinegar, it kind of like, not messed up his face, but obviously it's like had some after effects. And so that's what Deku was referencing because, the crow's feet and, it is very distinct. So it's not, wouldn't be the same as like his face would be in like his, prior to that. So he realized how much Deku appreciates All Might the way he would. So I was like, oh, okay, so you're not just some lucky punk. So he tells Deku like he was already going to approve of him. He never said that if he fails that he won't bring you. He wasn't going to bring him up on board. But he hands Deku the stamp and says, "Stamp it yourself. We work at this time," because he essentially, him, Lemillion, and the other girls, they essentially are Night Eye sidekicks. So technically, Deku's an official sidekick. So he has some level of autonomy, but he still has to, because Lemillion pretty much like guiding him through like the streets. Because when people go through these agencies, it's not like what it was prior, like where Froppy was working with that sailor seal guy, where she couldn't really do much because she wasn't licensed. Now, since they have license, they can act with some level of autonomy, so they can be able to use their quirks, to a certain degree. Not to the same degree as somebody like Endeavor or their respective teachers like Eraser. They still have to graduate, event, so that way they can be able to move the same degree as they can. So Lemillion is pretty much partnering with Deku because Night Eye is in charge of taking down this remnants of the Yakuza led by this guy Overhaul. They've been watching. And so Lemillion, I keep calling him Lemillion and Lanillion, but you know what I mean. I was going to go with Lemillion. Lemillion and Deku patrols one street, and they end up getting bumped into by this young girl named Irie or Kairi. I think it's Irie. And she's a scared little girl with a little horn on her head, and she's clutching on Deku for dear life, where they bump into Overhaul, the very guy that they're supposed to be monitoring. Is just like by freaking happenstance. And of course he says like, oh, that's my daughter, she's we had like a family squabble, she kind of freaked out and ran away. They know he's full of crap, and they really know this girl is super scared of him, and they want to do something, especially Deku. But Lemillion knows better, and so he plays up the naive superhero, and it's like, oh, we don't know anything. Like, oh, we understand. Like that's what we here for. We'll make sure everything is all hunky dory and stuff like that. And of course, Irie knows that overall what it's gonna do to them because they don't know the his capabilities, at least yet. So Irie runs back to him just to prevent overall from doing anything. And this pains both Deku and Lemillion deeply because they both have this honor code. They want to be able to save people, anybody who needs help. And the fact that they have to abandon a little girl to a clearly dangerous person eats at them for days. But they know what they did was right because they don't want to blow the case. They don't have enough to gather. They don't have enough evidence to really get the police involved and lock them up. This is circumstantial evidence at best. So, since they work on this case, they have to keep it on the hush hush. So Deku, once again, is blubbering and like keeping things to himself, and he's like not talking. He's so quiet, and everybody's kind of taking notice. Like, hey, Deku, you okay? You can talk to us if something's wrong. Like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was like, he doesn't have a poker face. This dude is, I'm sorry. There's a lot of stuff I like about Deku, but it's another thing where he's kind of like, yeah, sure, you can feel bad and you feel a little bit down in the dumps, but you don't have a good poker face. Clearly something wrong, and it's like you're not hiding. It's one thing, a person can sense something wrong, but then you're tearing up and like you're saying like everything's fine, but you're clearly not, and it's like, what prevented him to go to like a teacher or something? Like, there's something wrong with Deku. He's, freaking out. And it's like, and the same thing with Lemillion. His friends from the trio clearly know something wrong, but, but because he's not all cheerful and jokey like he normally is. And it's like, God, guys, it's like, I know it probably will eat anybody up from what they had to do. They know what they did was proper, but it still doesn't make it any easier. But you're coming close. And I guess the thought of what's going on with that kid is probably bothering them because they don't know. Because that drug that Overhaul is using is coming from Irie, because she has the ability that we learn later to a power of rewind. Pretty much resetting somebody to a previous state, but she has no form of training or control of that quirk. So that's where they get the drug from, where it pretty much kind of resets a person's DNA to a prior state. So therefore, erasing quirks altogether, bringing them back to normalcy. But they also twisted it to the drug into a separate thing because into these dart bullets, these darts or tranks can also increase somebody's ability to have seen level beyond what they can able to control it. So yeah, that's the thing they got to deal with now. Eventually Shigaraki and Overhaul meet up again under the Yakuza lair with all these twists and turns and tunnels and everything like that. They just Shigaraki says like, look, I'm not gonna work as your little underling, and clearly you're not gonna work under mine, so we're gonna have to make this a partnership. So in order to make it like a good faith transaction, he lends Overhaul Toga and Twice to utilize, but they're meant to also keep an eye out of what they can, what business they got going on. And I don't recall how they managed to pull this off, but clearly it's supposed to double cross them. Well, no, not double cross. Spy on them or something like that, because Overall has a right hand guy who has the ability to make people tell the truth when they're in close proximity to him. They Overall asked, "Are you meant to betray us?" And they said no, which clearly is the truth. So I guess either Shigaraki did something to their minds to make them believe that so it can be truthful, or he told them to actually believe their goals and I don't know, just buy into what they're selling so it can be truthful. They didn't know he had somebody who can force people to tell the truth. Anyway, the heroes end up having a meeting with at least a dozen different heroes, along with some sidekicks and some of the police. And thanks to Night Eye, who happened to bump into there's a lot of coincidence going on in this season, but he happened to, while he's monitoring a particular area, he sees one of Overhaul's little henchmen going to this toy store, and he was supposed to buy a particular toy for obviously Irie. And Night Eye took the initiative, hands him one of the toys, like, here, I'm having to be a fan too. This is the one's left, just to get be able to look the guy in the eye so he can use his quirk, so he can see everything from how to get into this secret location, because they don't have no way inside or knowing, because they know there's probably going to be some hideaways and traps and all this other stuff. So seeing this guy, Night has the inside in, so they can avoid a bunch of BS. So a few of Deku's classmates, like Red Riot and Uravity, and I think Froppy too, because they are partnering with their own little agencies. There's Red Riot's working with this superhero called Fat Gum, who absorbs people in his fat, and it's kind of like a fun character. And that's how they learn about the whole bullet situation, at least the darts, where one dude takes a shot at an unfinished product, ends up hitting Sun Eater, who has quirk ability to, if he eats any particular food, he takes on the property of the animal that comes from that food. Like, eats, calamari, he has squid tentacles for arms. So, and it was temporary, luckily, because it was an unfinished product. It was kind of like a test run. Red Riot comes chasing after the guy, and this shows, like how Red Riot is kind of like, getting to the point of utilizing his hardening ability and kind of evolving it to be like this overall, like, dense structure, and become like a bulldozer pretty much. And he ends up saying a bunch of people that kind of like starting to look up to him, because like, man, that was so manly. It's like, this is what he likes to care about. It's like, being a man, not like stereotypical or the ignorant definition of being a man, but it's like, no, it's like the positive version of like what it takes to be a man, kind of thing. And this season has like a lot of good moments of Red Riot. So now they have the information that they need. They just need to get the warrants that they require, and so they pretty much come walking up to the stronghold, and immediately all hell breaks loose. Despite the warrants and the police assistance, they dealing with like a few Yakuza members with actual quirks. So they break in, catching these criminals by surprise, because now they know exactly where to go and everything like that. They taking on the various different people. Fat Gum and Red Riot deals with this this duo, one who has a shield and the other who's like a bit of like a strong brawler. And through painstaking effort, Fat Gum and Red Riot managed to take those dudes out, but the brawler is still like hanging on, but he fights with honor, so he's able to like tell them about the healing chamber so he can patch up the kid, because he sees Fat Gum as like a worthy opponent. So just out of respect, he gives him that and tells him a bunch of information. I was like, I don't give a crap. I just want to, fight a real brawl. I don't care about anything else. I thought it was kind of fun. But then you see Sun Eater dealing with, I'm pretty sure his name is Sun Eater, but I was going to go with that. You know who I'm talking about. But he ends up dealing with these three crooks who nearly overwhelms him, but he managed to take advantage of their teamwork, because they don't want to hurt each other, because they feel like they're outcast by society and all this other stuff. So he ends up taking all three of those guys down. But then it's, they pretty much getting trapped inside these hallways that is twisting and turning, because a person with a quirk who's able to alter the state of certain structures. So it's twisting and turning, trying to confuse and separate the police and the heroes. But Lemillion managed to catch up to Overhaul and his cronies in order to save Ari, which he comes pretty close to doing, despite a couple of obstacles. And Deku managed to catch up along with like Night Eye, but now that Overhaul is and his last henchman managed to get a shot in while Lemillion is trying to save Irie. Gets shot with one of the darts, neutralizing his powers. He is seriously injured, but Night Eye is trying to keep him off of the Lemillion and Irie. Of course, he ends up being gravely injured, actually mortally wounded at this point. He got like a spike shoved into his abdomen. So he's holding on just by sheer adrenaline at this point. But then Deku ends up showing up and fighting off Overhaul. And it comes this big climactic fight where he Overhaul absorbed his right-hand guy to kind of increase his own ability to this monstrous kaiju level, where while trying to protect Irie, Uravity shows up because she and Froffy got tricked by a disguised Toga into going down and saving the others, but uh, it, Toga, and Shiraki and the others doesn't like Overhaul. They decide to work with him a little bit to see where things go, but they don't like him because the fact that they killed one of their own and took the arm of another, I was like, no, this dude's dead on sight because they have a close knit relationship with each other. Despite being villains, they look out for each other because they, all feel ostracized in one way or the other. That's what kind of bonds them to the degree. They're like their own little family. So the fact that he took one of their own, like, oh, we're not letting that go. Like, trust me, we will kill you for that. The question is more so when. So they end up utilizing the heroes and the tricking them to take down certain other players, or at least direct them to where they need to go to make it easier for them to take down. Because they don't ultimately care who kills whom, but as long as one of them take out another, which they kind of put their money on the heroes. So with Irie hanging on to Deku, Deku manages to be able to utilize his one for all powers at full 100% capability without damaging himself, thanks to Irie's rewind ability. Rewind his powers quicker than he damages them. Kind of, every few seconds resetting it so he can just go out, which managed to completely take out Overhaul. And thanks to Erase, who manages to neutralize Irie's powers to keep it from, killing Deku. The police managed to take away the criminals along with Overhaul. But the rest of the League of Villains show up to intercept the convoy to not only sever Overhaul's arms, but then shoot him with his own drug to neutralize his powers completely, make him just like a regular person. And they see that as like a fitting retribution for what he's pulled on them. And that's where they leave him. All the while, everybody's grieving for the loss of Night Eye, who says goodbyes to everybody and even sees All Might one last time. And with his faith in All Might kind of renewed after seeing that he thought Deku was supposed to have died in that combat with Overhaul, but somehow, because of his main character syndrome, Deku managed to change fate. And if Deku can do that, then it's possible that All Might's fate can be changed as well. But Night Eye ends up dying from his injuries. People are kind of grief-stricken. Lemillion doesn't, have access to his abilities. Hopefully that will change, but we'll end up seeing. But then there's like a moment, and Irie's in intensive care and quarantine until they can get a better handle on her powers and stuff like that. But then we got a little bit of an arc with this whole another festival thing, just to get people's spirits up, because they've been going through it with the whole situation with the Yakuza and what have you. So we got to keep people's spirits up, and that part was kind of lame. I didn't really care for all that. I was like worried about the earjack girl and getting her to be able to play music in front of people. And it's like, I really don't care. Then there's this magician and her little sidekick, Deku, has to deal with them while he's trying to make his way to this festival. And then Lemillion is taking Irie once she's feeling a little bit better, trying to lift her spirits and take her to enjoy, have a fun time with others. All that stuff is all fine and dandy, but it's not really interesting. I mean, it was a little bit with the magician and psychic, but not all that much. But really, just to tie up the video, what I did care about is seeing like Endeavor and trying to be his, not try to follow or replace All Might, to try to be his own man, his own type of symbol, and not try to copy or repeat All Might. He ends up fighting like a Nomu alongside Hawks, this other top 10 hero, who's like the youngest of the group, who managed to run his own kind of neighborhood and patrol his own neighborhood. He has wings with feathers that strong enough to carry people that he can mentally control. And he's very slick kind of dude, and it's like, I won't say cocky, but definitely like very sure of himself and like loved by everyone in his neighborhood. But he obviously more so idolizes Endeavor, despite his kind of like, cocky, laid back attitude. But they end up teaming up to take down this regenerating Nomu. And you get to see this person in the crowd, and it's like a hell of a not cameo appearance by Natsu from Fairy Tail, who of course idolizes Endeavor with fire abilities, because if you've seen Fairy Tail, Natsu has a fire capabilities, and he literally has the scarf thing, and you literally got the same voice actor for Natsu to come in to play this random civilian who idolizes Endeavor. And he keeps the crowd pumped up when everybody's scared. It's like, don't worry, Endeavor got this. You got this, Endeavor. And it's, trying to give people to, find the courage and not, lose faith in Endeavor, who's putting his all into his flames to take out this Nomu, while everybody's watching on the news, including Shoto, who's, really was freaking out. Despite his issues he has with his father, him and his other siblings who's watching in a different, on a computer in like another part of the city, they all freaking out thinking like, oh my God, Endeavor could die from this. But he managed to pull through, and Shoto's like literally, had to sit down because he was like, clearly beside himself, because like, but we'll see how that turns out. By the next season, we'll get further into the history of Shoto and his family, which is kind of dark, but we'll get to it. But that is pretty much how season 4 of My Hero Academia ends. So I will eventually get back into binging season 5, and as soon as I'm done, I'll let you know what my thoughts on that season would be. But let me know what you guys think of season 4. I'll see you all soon. Take care. Have a great weekend. Peace.